This is a story about the shadows that live in broad daylight. My name is Elias, and for 20 years, I lived in a town that preferred a comfortable lie over a jagged truth. I've spent most of my life as a defense investigator. People ask me if it is hard to sleep, knowing I might be helping a monster. I tell them the real monsters don't usually look like the ones on the news. The real monsters are often the ones sitting in the front row of the funeral, weeping the loudest. In 2004, Oak Ridge wasn't just a town, it was a pressure cooker. When 19-year-old Laura Campbell was found in the woods, the lid blew off. People didn't just want justice. They wanted a sacrifice. They found one in David Miller. David was different. He didn't make eye contact. He collected river stones and spent his days alone. In a town of hunters and high school football stars, David was a weirdo, and in the eyes of a panicked public, weirdo is just another word for guilty. Sound design, a heavy prison door slamming shut, echoing into silence. I remember the interrogation tapes. Sheriff Brody, a man who wasn't evil, just exhausted, spent 16 hours in a windowless room with David. No lawyer. No food, just the same question over and over. Did you do it for her, David? Did you want to keep her forever? Eventually, David broke. Not because he was guilty, but because he was tired. He gave them a confession that didn't even match the crime scene, but the town didn't care. They had their monster. I took the case 10 years later when David's sister, Emily, walked into my office. She didn't have money, but she had a box of Laura's old letters. I started pulling at the threads. The first thing I noticed, the timeline. The monster the police built was a man who acted on impulse. But the crime scene was surgical. I went back to the old evidence lockers. There was a gold locket mentioned in the initial report, found under a root near Laura's body. It was never presented at trial. Why? Because Mayor Henderson, the town's golden boy, told the sheriff it was a family heirloom Laura had stolen. He said it would only complicate the jury's focus. I tracked down the jeweler who made that piece. It wasn't an heirloom. It was a gift, purchased 3 weeks before the murder by someone with a very deep pocket and a very big secret. Sound design, rain against a windshield, the rhythmic, lonely click of a turn signal. I sat in my car outside Mayor Henderson's estate. He was the man who had led the prayer vigils for Laura. He was the one who personally thanked the jury for putting David away. But the jeweler's records didn't lie. The locket was engraved with our H for Richard Henderson. I visited Sheriff Brody, now retired and nursing a bottle of scotch on his porch. I showed him the records. I watched the color drain from his face. He knew. He had always known something was off, but he had traded his conscience for a quiet life in a town that rewarded his silence. Elias, he told me, his voice cracking, the mayor. He told us David was the only way the town would heal. He said the evidence against anyone else would just tear the community apart. I thought I was doing the right thing. The right thing had cost David Miller his youth. It had let a predator stay in power for 2 decades. We didn't get a dramatic courtroom confession. Life isn't a movie. We got a DNA match from a strand of hair found in that locket hair that belonged to Richard Henderson. When the warrants were signed, Henderson didn't fight. He went into his study and ended it himself. He died a distinguished man in the eyes of those who didn't read the papers the next day. David Miller was released on a Tuesday. I was there to meet him. He looked at the sky like he'd never seen it before. He didn't look like a monster. He just looked hollow. Sound design, wind whistling through trees, soft, melancholy piano. The hardest part of my job isn't finding the killer. It is looking at a town that is happy again and realizing they don't care that they ruined an innocent life. They're just glad the monster is gone, even if it was the wrong one.